All right, today we're going on a journey. We're diving deep, way deep into our planet's past, into a world ruled by a creature so enormous it almost defies imagination. I want you to just, for a second, forget everything you think you know about the world we live in today. Because we're going back, way back, 90 million years to be exact. And back then, the oceans, they were a completely different beast, a totally alien frontier. Think about it. Crushing pressure, absolute eternal darkness, and filled with secrets we're still just starting to scratch the surface of. And down in those ancient waters, something was moving. Something else. Something so massive, so completely dominant, it basically forces us to rethink what life on this planet is even capable of. See, this thing wasn't just some predator at the top of the food chain. No. It pretty much was the food chain, the one and only king of the deep, absolutely undisputed. So what do you even call something like that? Well, scientists came up with a name that honestly only scratches the surface of its sheer terrifying majesty: Leviathan Saurian. It literally translates to the monster of the ocean. And believe me, as we're about to find out, it more than lived up to that name. Okay, so let's get down to it. Just how big are we talking here? I mean, it's easy to throw around words like large or giant, but it's a whole different thing to actually try and wrap your head around the anatomy of this living titan. Let's try to put this into perspective. You know the Titanic, right? For over a century, it's been our go-to symbol for something impossibly huge. That ship was 269 meters long. Well, the Leviathan Saurian, yeah, it would have absolutely dwarfed the Titanic. 400 meters. Just let that number sit with you for a second. 400. That is longer than 4 football fields laid end to end. And we're talking about a single living, breathing creature. It's just staggering. And this body, it was basically built for one thing: complete and total dominance. It had this sleek, whale-like shape for moving through the water, but it was covered in these dinosaur scales that were as tough as steel. Its heart, the size of a bus. Its fins were so massive they were like football fields themselves, and its eyes could see through the deepest, blackest water. This thing wasn't an animal. It was a living, biological battleship. So you have to wonder, how does something this enormous even exist in the world? Well, the thing is, it didn't just live in its environment, it was the environment. It literally changed the world around it just by being there. I mean, its mass alone was a force of nature. When this thing swam, the amount of water it displaced could actually create waves on the surface, waves that looked like a storm rolling in. Its very presence warped the ocean itself. And what about the other big bads of the prehistoric seas? You know, the megalodon, the mosasaurs, the kind of predators that give us nightmares today. To the Leviathan Saurian, they were nothing. When they sensed it coming, there wasn't a fight. It wasn't even a contest. There was only one option: run. Or swim, I guess. The way it hunted was just pure terror. It didn't need to be fast. It would just move slowly, calmly, like the quiet before a hurricane. And then it would open that colossal mouth, creating a whirlpool, a vortex that literally pulled the ocean and everything in it inside. We're talking about swallowing entire pods of whale-sized creatures in a single gulp. A single bite was basically its own little extinction event. But here's the thing. Even the greatest kings have to fall. So what could possibly take down a creature like this? What could end its reign? Well, it took something big. In fact, it took nothing less than the end of the world. Yep, the very same asteroid that did in the dinosaurs, that's what sealed the Leviathan's fate. When it hit, it threw so much dust into the air that it basically blacked out the sun. The sky went dark, and that started a chain reaction. No sun meant no plankton meant no small fish meant no big fish. You see where this is going. The entire global food chain just collapsed, from the very bottom all the way to the top. And for a creature that needed to eat mountains of food just to survive, there was nothing left. It would have taken centuries, but it just starved. It weakened, and finally it just disappeared back into the same abyss it once rolled. And that really should be where the story ends. A cool, terrifying chapter from Earth's ancient history, but a closed one, right? But what if it isn't? What if some shadow of that old king is still down there, hiding in the abyss?
I mean, look, the scientific consensus is pretty clear on this. The Leviathan Saurian is extinct, gone. It's a fossil, a ghost from a world that doesn't exist anymore.
But then you remember just how little we actually know about our own oceans. They are so vast. We've explored, what, maybe 5% of them? The other 95% is a total mystery. And down in that deep, crushing dark, you have to admit, almost anything feels possible. Which brings up a very tantalizing question. Because there are weird things, little fragments of evidence that don't quite add up. Every now and then, deep-sea sonar will get a ping, a biological signature that's way bigger than any whale or anything else we know exists. Or seismic sensors on the ocean floor will record these massive movements that aren't earthquakes or any kind of known geological event. And then you get this. A quote from a deep-sea submersible pilot, a trained professional who saw something down there they just couldn't explain. And listen to how they described it. Just think about what you'd have to see to say this about a living thing. They didn't say it was like a whale or a shark. They said it moved like an island.
So, could it be? Could some descendant of this ancient king still be out there lurking in the dark? Who knows? But this whole story really just hammers home a fundamental truth, doesn't it? Maybe the biggest mysteries out there aren't in the stars millions of light years away. Maybe they're right here on our own planet, just hidden beneath the waves. It just goes to show you what we don't know is always going to be way bigger than what we do.